greetings and salutations, one and all. How you doing? It's real talk right here on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, kicking it up with the sound of voice. A track called Perfect World. Call the people, tell them hug up your friend and run now. It's like everybody in here is family. So as I so play to one up in the game. I want to say welcome to the night shift of DJ Kevin Stew. Big ups to the affiliates all over. NIE Radio, the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com, PEMGTV.com. Welcome to those on Facebook Live. How you doing? Big ups to those, of course, on TuneIn Radio, the Night Shift to DJ Kevin Stew, and right here at the home of the Night Shift to DJ Kevin Stew, KevinStew.com. Glad to have you. Couldn't do it without you. You have my word, I wouldn't even try. This is where we meet up to have acceptance through enlightenment, or at least try to. Invite y'all to jump into the stew pot. If you're wondering what the stew pot is, it's what others call a chat room. But because it's fancy over here, we call it the stew pot. It's where we keep things interactive and bubbling. Come on in, you don't have to register for anything, it's free. You don't need to sign up for anything, you can remain anonymous, or you can put your name so I know who it is that I'm interacting with. Of course, you can call, text, WhatsApp, Telegram, 773-789-STEW. At 773-789-7839. Yeah, let's see if we can build a perfect world. Is there any such thing? I'm sure somewhere, somehow, some way we can create a perfect world. That little utopia in our own backyard, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so tonight, this week being Emancipendence Week in Jamaica, and for those of you raising your eyebrows because you've never heard such a word, it is a combination of independence and emancipation. So, Emancipation Day started the week this year, and that was Sunday, it started the month. And this weekend is Independence. Jamaica celebrates independence, the 59th year of independence. So, I figured, you know what? I haven't touched on anything relating to that this week. Well, not directly, because of course, you know, we have been talking about the Rodney Reed case. So that speaks to a sense of freedom and figuring out what freedom is and working towards getting there. Hey 985, welcome. And so tonight we're asking the question, what is freedom? And of course, I went around, did some research, found some information here and there. And according to welldoing.org, what they say is we all want freedom, but we're not always so sure about what it is or how to attain it. And this is very true. If freedom were merely a matter of not being in a prison cell, then the vast majority of us should be free, right? Sounds logical. But we often find ourselves imprisoned by internal anxieties, worries, habits, compulsions, fears, depression, addictions, and false assumptions. The false assumptions are the ones that, 1002, how you doing? Equally, you could imprison someone like Socrates or Boethius, Thomas More, Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela, and they would be in many ways freer than their captors or jailers. True freedom is primarily a state of mind. And I think that's the thing that blows a lot of people's mind. Just the concept that true freedom is a state of mind. And typically, when people are thinking along that way, that line of thinking, they would say, you know what, I'm free. Because my mind is free to think as I am. So if I am free and I think I am free, then I am free no matter what it is that I am going through, no matter what it is that anybody else says. So freedom is a state of mind. Cool. All right. So, and let me go ahead and put the website here on Facebook for everybody to get it. Those of you who don't know, welcome to the Facebookers. All right. Use up the link. Come on over to kevinstew.com and let's hang out. Jump into the stew pot and add some seasoning. Yeah? So, philosophers and theologians have had much to say about the nature of freedom and the mind over millennia. But the discipline of psychology, as we know it, is relatively new. Psychology, simply put, is the study of the mind in order to study and understand the mind, we actually need to observe it. Kind of interesting to observe the mind, right? So now in order to observe the mind, you have to observe actions because you don't physically see the mind. We see how it works by watching what it does. The essential factor is the observing self, the consciousness, which is doing the watching. If we ignore the observing self, as psychology has largely done until recently, then we may have been looking at the mind from the wrong perspective. Like trying to understand it by thinking about it rather than observing it. Which, would be really wrong. So, what do a few notable psychologists have to say about freedom? What do you guys consider freedom to be? Hey Dora, how you doing? Big ups to you guys down in Brazil. Radio Cristal, much love to you guys. Truly, truly, truly appreciate of you. So William James, who lived from 1842 to 1910, an American physician, psychologist, and philosopher whose influential work, The Principles of Psychology, is the foundation for modern psychology. Three key themes of James's work related to attention, determinism, and spirituality. In relation to attention, he identified its importance long before the modern interest in contemplative neuroscience as a prerequisite for understanding oneself and leading a healthy life. James' attitude to determinism was what he called soft determinism, abhorring the later limited and fatalistic thinking, which subsequently became widespread. He believed we have the scope to freely choose our actions, attitudes, and way of being in the world. There may be strong biological and environmental influences on our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors beyond our control, but that doesn't define us. To James, the ultimate freedom tied with spirituality. The ultimate freedom, according to James, is knowing God or the highest and selflessly following its will. Sigmund Freud, who lived from 1856 to 1939, his views was, well, let's take a look. Freud's popularization of psychoanalysis provided our image of the archetypical psychiatrist. He took a gloomy, misanthropic view of humanity, perhaps because he formed his theories almost exclusively from a relatively small number of desperately miserable and neurotic people. Freud's influential focus on psychopathy or psychopathology may be the chief reason why, for the following centuries, psychology almost exclusively focused on abnormality and mental illness rather than positive psychology and well-being, which I think even carries over till today for a lot of people. That little bit of influence. Freud never aimed high as far as therapeutic outcomes were concerned, and was openly hostile to religion and dismissive of religious experience. He was a hard determinist of the view that our actions and decisions are essentially predetermined by our biology. Upbringing and unconscious process, and because we are aware of them, we don't get to choose them, nor are they under our control. In this view, free will is an illusion. So basically, Freud was saying, hey, listen, things are predetermined. And whatever it is that we are living, and however it is that we are living, has been predetermined, and we're just falling into place. Whatever it, if we say we choose to do something, then that thing was already determined that we're going to do it. So we just fell into what was supposed to happen. So that was Freud's thinking. Carl Jung, or Carl Jung as it is pronounced, was a Swiss psychologist who lived from 1875 to 1961 and was originally a close associate of Freud, but went a very different direction to Freud, particularly in relation to his views on the unconscious, religion, and free will. He was a deeply spiritual man, in part inspired by his familiarity with the world's great mythologies and wisdom traditions, but also because of his deeply introspective and contemplative learnings. To Jung, we are all connected not just by our physical proximity to each other, but also through a collective unconscious. This is like a universal mind, which, for the most part, we hardly know exists as we go about our distracted day-to-day existence. The personal transformation from an isolated individual to a free, universal, enlightened being, Jung likens to a kind of spiritual alchemy. Hence, self-reflection was something that Jung wholeheartedly embraced, but Freud vigorously avoided. Can you imagine what their relationship was like? Them being close? For Jung, personal growth was about awakening to self-knowledge and self-awareness. He believed in free will and viewed a hard determinism as merely a mode of thought. If we don't connect with the core of our being and realize that it is conscious with universal being, then we will be ruled by instinct, cause and effect, as described by Freud. This stamps Jung as being quite distinct from Freud and the nihilism associated with many proponents of existentialism. So basically, he was saying, let's not be ruled by just instinct and react to cause and effect. Don't let that be what drives us or conditions our state of being or mindset. Go deeper than that. Be aware of self. And I'm even taking it a step further to say, go ahead and recognize that you can have choice. And choice is intentional. But then again, I'm no psychologist. I'm just a DJ. Now, Skinner, B.F. Skinner, or Boris Frederick Skinner, lived from 1904 to 1990, and he was an American psychologist largely responsible for popularizing behaviorism and the experimental approach to understanding human behavior. Laboratory-based experiments are useful, but they are inherently artificial and limited by the things you can do or choose to, the things you can measure and the things you can control. Skinner's view of behaviorism is strongly deterministic. He saw free will, emotion, and motivation as illusory covers for the real causes of human behavior, the effect of environment and conditioning of our biology. Thus, Skinner's view was that you could condition or train human beings like animals to think or do what you want. Not far from the truth, now is it? You can reinforce some behaviors and punish others, thus conditioning the brain and biology to be the way it is. The person who commits a crime has no real choice because they are propelled to it by environmental circumstances and personal history, making breaking the law, for some people, natural and inevitable. For others, being law-abiding is just as natural because of their environment and upbringing. Environment clearly has significant influence on us, and the sciences of neuroplasticity and epigenetics give further credence to that view. But there's a risk in taking one factor to be all there is. What works against us can also work for us. Although environment and conditioning do play a major role in determining our makeup and behavior, we are not inevitably prisoners of them. Because we can choose environments, we can choose behaviors, we can have them change the way our brains and genes express themselves. Mind blowing, isn't it? So, the more psychologists look into how our minds operate, the more we expand our way of thinking about what freedom is. Viktor Frankl, who was an Austrian psychiatrist, lived from 1905 to 1977. And his views were deeply influenced by real life experiences in Nazi concentration camps. There, he had little or no control over his external circumstances, but this drove him to discover a deep sense of self-reliance. It brought him to view a deeper sense of insight and meaning, which profoundly changed the way Frankl experienced his ordeal. It was not that the conditions of the camp changed, but that paradoxically, he found freedom from the misery by transcending it, by finding meaning within it, and by embracing the opposite to the hatred and bitterness which would have been expected. Freedom, to Frankl, was not an external affair, but an internal one, based on choosing the attitude to any event. This is radically non-determinist. Frankl, when asked to comment on Skinner's view, said, "Man does not cease to be an animal, but at the same time, he is infinitely more than an animal. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." An important part of the ability to choose and transcend is objective awareness, which Frankl likens to a space between stimulus and response, strongly echoing the emphasis on awareness. Previously, on awareness previously exhorted by various wisdom traditions and later exhorted in mindfulness-based approaches. Someone who is still around with us today, Martin Seligman, who was born in 1942, is an American psychologist, very active in redirecting modern psychology's fascination with psychopathology and encouraging it to explore the realm of positive psychology. Seligman's early animal research led him to discover what he called learned helplessness, which arises when you consistently create painful situations from which the animal cannot escape. Soon, it ceases trying to escape even when the potential for escape is reintroduced. Seligman drew parallels with people living with depression who, being unable to escape the thoughts and feelings they did not want to experience, learned a kind of helplessness and resignation. Rather than just mitigating the symptoms of psychological distress or making them with drugs, masking them, with drugs, Seligman wanted to use the positive resources a person had within themselves, such as character and strengths and virtues. The conclusions he and co-researchers came to echoed what many wisdom traditions exhorted for millennia. Positive psychology is in part deterministic in that happiness is part determined by genetics and environment. But it also acknowledges the importance of free will, for it is within our ability to choose what characteristics and resources we cultivate. Pessimism, yeah, the opposite of optimism. Okay, so, all right, I'm done. Pessimism leads to one direction of optimism in another. Seligman's view on choosing the beliefs we focus on in times of adversity strongly align with Frankel's. People whose disposition and happiness, or disposition to happiness, is primarily eudaimonic, being happiness as meaning, tend to be far happier and more resilient to stress and disappointment. I'll say this as it relates to Siegel's thoughts. I was speaking with a friend recently, and I was asked, how am I doing? And I said, I'm a little bit bothered today, but I'm smiling through it. And they asked me why. And I said, because when you smile, it changes how you perceive things. You intentionally put on a smile, which lets you think about the situation that you're in and the mood that you're experiencing at this given moment. And if you can smile through that situation and it's not such a great situation for you, then you can smile through others. And if you've been through situations before, which you have, and gotten to this point, then you maintain a 100% success rate. So if you can smile through it now, you maintain a 100% success rate with a smile. And saying it made me smile even more. So you go figure. Again, it's in the mind, right? So I'm well aligned with what Siegel was saying. All right, so I got one more for you before I take a break and say goodbye to Facebook Live. John Kabat-Zinn, who was born in 1944, is a molecular biologist, not a psychologist. But through his long-standing passion for teaching and researching mindfulness, he has had a profound effect on the modern understanding and practice of psychology. He developed a deep interest in Buddhism and mindfulness meditation and took what he learned into the community. Kabat-Zinn's work attracted significant attention from a group of prominent psychologists and researchers, John Teasdale, Zindel Siegel, and Mark Williams, who were looking for new strategies to help with escalating rates of chronic relapsing depression. They developed mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT, and found extremely promising results which have been consistently confirmed in many studies since then. Mindfulness-based approaches are revolutionizing or psychotherapy, with the first and most central point being the cultivation of awareness. Without awareness, we are essentially an automation, without understanding and with no conscious will of our own. A state called automatic pilot. In such a state, the hard determinism of Freud and Skinner might be a fair description of the human condition. Dissatisfaction, regret, addiction, and fear essentially come from ignoring the present and living in an imaginary future of relived past. In our restless, unmindful search for happiness, we constantly look for things outside ourselves. But don't we often do, though? What we find is impermanence and constantly missing the bedrock of our being to become a prisoner of the mind and its contents. We tend to identify ourselves with passing thoughts and feelings and take them as facts. Liberation from suffering and distress therefore lies in our ability to rest in simple, non-judgmental, compassionate awareness and not to be so moved by transient mental or sensory experiences. If we cultivate awareness and non-attachment to the mind and its contents, then we have the opportunity to live more fully and authentically and without the same level of hindrance from our moods, compulsions, desires, and addictions. Developing things like self-awareness, self-actualization, non-attachment, and acknowledging a deeper observing self are ways to avoid or to extricate ourselves from the mental traps we unwittingly stumble into. The bottom line is, we do not have to be trapped by the mind. If we train and use it well, the mind resembles a faithful servant rather than a tyrannical master. That, however, requires some wisdom, patience, perseverance, careful guidance, courage, and more than a little self-compassion. This according to wellbeing.com. Sorry, welldoing.org. And so many parts of this, especially this last section here by John Kabat-Zinn and also from Martin Seligman, I personally resonate with, or it resonates with me, because in this real talk journey and within the last 5 years, I have been on a personal journey to self-awareness, and I have learned certain things which I guess could only be taught to me by me. But when looking at things like this information here, when reading psychologists' information and studies, when doing social psychology and looking at how the mind works in a social setting, how we react with and to each other, I have learned more and more that the ability to choose and the ability to find happiness and freedom and to maintain control is something that many of us seem to leave to the external. We really do. We depend on social media, we depend on friends, family, partners to bring us to this level of happiness. It's like I grew up in church hearing people come to church saying, well, I have really come to get a blessing today. So what happened all the other days when you were not in church? You were not blessed? And why is it that you say you are a believer, but you're coming to this place to get a blessing? Why didn't you bring that blessing with you? So it's within that mindset that we pretty much live. Not just those that go to church, Christians, Catholics, whatever religion you ascribe to. Not just them, but people on a whole. People talk about finding their other half and going out and finding happiness and finding versus realizing, because it is within us. How is it that you're going to find your better half, find the one that completes you? You're a whole being. You're already complete. Now, if you find someone that complements you, that's different. But you're a whole being. Find what is within you and recognize your completion. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're going to talk some more. It's real talk. We're looking at what freedom is as we go through this Emancipendence Week, recognizing Jamaica's independence, Jamaica's emancipation, and hopefully at least one person can recognize tonight that they are free and find for them what that freedom means. We'll be back after these few messages. People on Facebook Live, use the link that is pinned in the comment section. Come on over to kevinstew.com. Until next time, Saturday. When we do Saturday Stew, deuces. We'll be right back after these messages.
Pulse Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulse Media Group.
It takes an entire village to raise a child. Hello, I'm Paul Campbell, here to talk about Palace. Peace and Love Academic Scholarship. This non-profit group supports students facing serious obstacles from entering or continuing their studies, not because the grades are failing, but due to the lack of financial support.
Over the past 8 years, Palace has awarded 600 scholarships valued at approximately 50.3 million Jamaican dollars, or 415,000 US dollars.
Together, we must build a better future for our children. Please visit www.palace1.org and make your donation to brighten the future of a deserving child. Palace, preserving young minds for posterity.
Making great music is one thing, sharing it with the world, that's another. Let the professionals at Reggae Global Entertainment help you to another level. Specializing in artist management, booking, public relations and marketing, and promotion, Reggae Global Entertainment can help you with event planning, websites, photography, and video production, press releases, legal services, and graphic design. They can even help you with music production, so you can get the sound that you want every time. Call Reggae Global Entertainment at 954-804-8199. That's 804-8199. Or visit them online at reggaeglobalentertainment.com.
Yes, my people. Check out I Red Funks on Reggae Global Radio every Saturday at 8 p.m. with Kev Stew, where I'll give you a pre-life. Brand new. Good for you. Kick it like a ball if you don't say a dance song. You hear that?
Hey, I'm representing for DJ Kevin Stew, working on the night shift radio show. Won't go changing like the weather, just to please the devil never. Will DJ Kevin Stew sell his soul? That's a word and honor. It's Chris Cinti representing word and honor. Still I say DJ Kevin Stew.
Enough has happened in the past. Fast approaching is a brand new day. Present times are hard and fast. This mass oppression, it must dissipate. The Lord has heard his people. Lust and envy, greed and pride, a raw deal and a pack of lies. The Lord has heard his people's tears. A new day comes with no more fear. Once divided, now unite, a new Haiti in a bright new light. Once divided, now unite, a free world with just sovereign might. Preserved through strength and unity, those who hold out to God's light. Injustice and inequity cease to bring our remedy. Once divided, now unite.
The sound of GAE welcoming us back from the break. A track called A New Haiti.
Once divided, now unite.
Her tribute to Haiti.
With just sovereign.
Looking for that free world.
Once divided, now unite.
I guess it's easier to think about and talk about than to actually see and live in, right?
A new Haiti in a bright new light.
Oh, before I thank my current segment sponsor, I do want to thank my previous segment sponsor, Pulse Media Group, for contact Pulse Media for innovative streaming and recording solutions. When being in moment is priceless, they are your one-stop shop. They take care of photography, videography, advertising, streaming, and so much more. They can do for you what you see right here on kevinstew.com and so much more. You have a church service, a funeral, a wedding, a seminar, a party, and you want to stream it live, get them a call. The number is actually 754-999-1140, brand new number. But the email remains the same, paulcmg.com. Thank you to my current segment sponsor, Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands. Althea SU is a licensed massage therapist operating out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade, and South Palm Beach counties. She comes to you, brings her table, her oils, and over 20 years massage therapy experience. Give her a call, send her an email, phone number 954-655-9000. Email Thealater, THEALATER @att.net.
Just sovereign might.
Tell her DJ Kevin Stew sent you. One of the things that she requests outside of paying her is that you get off her table and go sleep somewhere else when she's done.
In a bright new light.
For those of you who just joined, we're looking at what freedom is. And that's the question. What is freedom?
Once divided, now unite, a free world.
In the background, the sound of GAE, a track called A New Haiti. So Alex Lickerman, Dr. Alex Lickerman,
Has happened in the past.
did a little article on Psychology Today a few years ago, and it is titled The True Meaning of Freedom, saying we may not have free will, but we can still act freely, sort of. Okay, so sort of? What do you mean? All right, so let's see. Let's get into this a little bit. Now, America is a symbol of freedom all over the world. Enjoying it as it does freedom of speech, somewhat, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. Well, I can tell you, considering that this article was written a few years ago, I'm not too sure the same would be said about today. Considering just, 2 weeks ago, I did a healthy love segment that was blocked on one of the platforms. And it was blocked because they said I violated some WHO policies on information being released or the other. Only for this week, the CDC put out an article with some of the very same information that I was talking about. And I took it even a step further because I added to my broadcast with suggestions to help boost immunity naturally. I'm not saying that I was offering suggestions to cure anybody from any virus. But I digress. Our ancestors prized these political freedoms so much that many of them were willing to die defending them. And though many of us are often accused today of taking them for granted, which many of us do, we continue to see people rising up to fight for them when they're threatened, when someone else's freedoms are threatened too. And we saw that, or we've seen that in more recent times with like the George Floyd situation, and with Rodney Reed and Julius Jones, where many of us are coming to aid in the fight for their freedom from incarceration. Wrongful incarceration, I might add. Now, these freedoms, of course, are not absolute. I can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater when I know no fire exists, to cite a famous example of the limitations imposed on free speech. Nor can I threaten to detonate an imaginary bomb on a plane. Even writing that phrase in a post is likely to attract the attention of the Office of Homeland Security. That's because Big Brother is always watching. Nor, to paraphrase another famous line, can I swing my fist into the space your nose happens to occupy. I love that. To state the obvious, we're all free within limits. So, it has always been, and so in a civil society, must it always be. Mostly, we do not notice these limitations because we've been programmed to not even think about being released from them, for the most part. And even when someone does want to punch someone else's nose, the threat of punishment isn't the only thing that stops them. It's also the sense that we shouldn't impinge on someone else's right not to leave their nose punched, not to have their nose punched. And I don't know how many people actually think about that. You do something to someone and you get punched in the face for it. I don't think the person doing the punching is thinking, boy, you have the right to not get punched. At that point, I really believe they're thinking, you deserve to get punched. Political freedom, however, isn't the only realm in which freedom appears to be greater than it is. It turns out that our freedom to make even the simplest choices, whether to put on brown or blue pants, whatever it may not just be more limited than we think. It may not exist at all. As research in neuroscience progresses, it's steadily reinterpreting past ideas from other disciplines, notably both psychology and philosophy, and quickly subsuming them. Freud's conception of the unconscious mind has turned out to have an entirely neurological basis, for example, and though he got many of his details wrong, we now know that the greatest proportion of our thinking does indeed go on beneath our conscious awareness, which it turns out is quite lucky for us. as Daniel Kahneman points out in his fascinating book, Thinking, Fast and Slow, we need what he calls System 1, the fast unconscious thinker, to survive at all. If we had to consciously attend to all the things we need to do simply to make it out of bed in the morning, we'd not only never get anything done, we'd continually be exhausted. Conscious reasoning, the so-called executive function of the brain, is extremely tiring. But as Kahneman also argues, System 2, the part of our minds we identify as us, is powerfully influenced by the workings of System 1. If we take the time, we can free ourselves from some of them, but not all. And certainly not all the time. The difficult truth is that we are not free even from our unconscious selves. Of course, we've long known this, long before the concepts of System 1 and System 2 were ever imagined. The intellect has ever been pitted against the emotions. Our notion of what we should do, to offer just one example, often warring with and losing to what we want to do. But for the age-old question of free will, it's even worse than that. It looks as if the answer is that we don't actually have it. When you look around at what we do sometimes, we especially now, the concept of free will seems to be taken away. Here it is, we are often told that if we don't have this new vaccine, we can't do certain things. We can't travel certain places, we can't socialize in certain groups, we can't even go to work in some cases. So, where is free will at this point? So, are we actually free? I almost said still free. Are we actually free? Because the mere fact that something like this can be imposed on us means then that we were not always free, because nothing has changed in our situation where we are. If it's just a matter of putting out a mandate, then nobody fought for it. They just said this is what we have to do, and now the fight is against it. So, how free are we? Studies now show that the impulse to take the most basic of actions, the movement of a finger, for example, originate in the brain at least a full second before we're consciously aware of our desire to move it. It appears that the unconscious mind, functioning with an understanding, bereft of knowledge, of language, may control far more of our conscious decision making than we ever imagined, if not all of it. Philosophers and scientists are speaking out against these results. Not so much to deny them, but to try instead to salvage the notion of free will by redefining it. And though there's a thought that these efforts will ultimately fail, there exists good reason to want them to succeed. Studies also show that when we lose our belief in free will, our motivation to act diminishes as well. However, the question, and it does, before I move on, it does. Because let's take, for example, the story of the elephant that is held in place, the fully grown elephant, held in place by just a cord tied around its foot, and held in the other end of the cord tied to a stake put in the ground. And just by the elephant, this majestic beast, knowing that this little cord is tied around its foot, it stays right where it is. It's conditioning. And when you wonder why it is that can happen, it's really because as a baby, that is what was used to hold this elephant. It didn't have the strength to break that cord or to uproot that stake in the ground. And it grew with the mindset that it is bound. And it is incapable of breaking this bondage, conditioning. So the question the free will data should spark isn't merely whether we have free will. We should also be asking, what exactly do we mean by we? We, self-identity with the system too. Our conscious minds, our sense of self, whatever you want to call it. But in doing so, are we sure we are placing the seat of ourselves in the right location? We behave as if System 1 is a hobgoblin in our minds, separate from us, doing as it pleases, serving its own interests, which are often different from ours. But is this conception accurate? Most of what System 1 does is actually done for our benefit. It helps us avoid traffic accidents and other environmental hazards and recognize what others are feeling from the subtlest of facial expressions. On the other hand, it's often things we don't wish to be, like selfish and angry, perverse. Well, I'm not too sure we all don't wish to be those things, but, not my article. The argument would even go further, however, that a view of the unconscious mind as an entity distinct from that which we conceive as us, quote unquote, is flawed. It's certainly understandable that we'd think of it that way, given that studies have demonstrated our conscious minds are not able to control our unconscious ones. For example, we cannot simply decide to stop feeling sad or depressed or anything. Yet, well, can't we? Yet other avenues of influence over our unconscious minds do exist. We may not be able, in the heat of the moment, to stop ourselves from feeling angry. Different, of course, from stopping ourselves from acting on our anger. But we can, over time, ferret out the things that trigger our anger and diffuse their ability to anger us. Thus, we may, in fact, be able to forge a kind of indirect freedom. The freedom of our conscious minds to govern the basic direction of our lives by foregoing our unconscious selves into the people our conscious selves want them to be. Did I say foregoing? I said it's forging. Now, that way, though we may not consciously initiate our fist to strike, our fist will lash out only when we agree they should. So it won't be as impulsive as it will be intentional. It's quite a leap to imagine this is possible to the degree that is being suggested. But it's tantalizing to imagine that the elephant of our unconscious mind that we're all riding and that may be in charge needn't only be made to do our bidding against its will, but that we can also train it to want what we want. Perhaps then the greatest potential for freedom lies in creating as much unity between our conscious and unconscious selves as possible. Dr. Lickerman's book is titled The Undefeated Mind. You might want to check it out. Alex Lickerman is a general internist and former director of primary care at University of Chicago and has been a practicing Buddhist since 1989. The unconscious mind and the conscious mind being at war, so to speak, when it comes to the recognition of freedom. Quite stimulating, quite interesting, isn't it? Well, I know for me it is, because I'm kind of into that stuff. But what is freedom? It's recognizing that you do have choice, but is it also recognizing that some of the choice that we have, or some of the choices we have, are governed by external factors, or restricted even? So then the question comes back, are we really free? We're going to take another break. And when we come back, of course, we're going to talk just a little bit more before we get into musical therapy. Call your friends, tell your friends, friends of your friends, friends of your enemies, enemies of your friends, and your enemies. It's the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, Real Talk Night. We're asking a question, what is freedom? We'll be back after these few messages.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid.
In English,
and in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn?
Is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links, www.dahchurchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Or maybe he's teething.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Yes. Akar Mantino, I'm making notes right now. You are locked in to DJ Kevin Stew on the night shift.
Sweet Jamaica. Sweet Jamaica. Sweet Jamaica, the place of my birth. tiny speck on this earth. An island surrounded by the Caribbean Sea. There's vacation, a land of fertility. Sweet Jamaica, land of the brave and free. Oh, this island breeze, I'm feeling at ease with some island trees. The greatest mountainous mountain, white sand and beach. The sweetest reggae music, the fastest athlete, the creative people. Our craft is so unique. Sweet Jamaica, land of the brave and free. Oh, this island breeze, I'm feeling at ease with some island trees. Yaki and saltfish and the breadfruit, there's cabbage fish with bambi and jelly and fruits, fried plantain, jerk chicken, and the rice and peas. The Yaffy, Draffy, the second, and the trees. One thing I'm asking Jamaica, please. Eliminate the war of the crime for we. So everybody can hide the morning light. Everyone can live a safe life. Sweet Jamaica, land of the brave and free. Land of the brave and free. Oh, this island breeze, I'm feeling at ease. Free to be island trees. Let's go. Sweet Jamaica.
The track is called Sweet Jamaica. The sound of Mr. Ian Sweetness. I want to say welcome back to the broadcast and thank you to my segment sponsor, Reggae Global Entertainment.
Asking Jamaica, please.
They'll act as your booking agents, tour management, handle your tour management, take care of your copyrights, publishing, trademarks, business registrations, legal service referrals, music production, marketing and promotion, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-804-8199. That's 954-804-8199. Or check them out online, reggaeglobalentertainment.com. Tell them DJ Kevin Stew sent you. Jamaica. Yeah, man, my country too, you know. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, as we move towards the end of this edition of Real Talk, before getting into musical therapy, how do we go about being free in 2021? According to coachingonline.org, it seems human beings have long been on a quest in search of freedom since life began on this planet. It holds so much meaning. To be free psychologically is the most fundamental freedom we do not realize is at the heart of all the freedoms we hold dear. And this is so true because it is only through our minds that we are controlled. So, what then is the meaning of freedom? The dictionary defines it as the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint, as well as absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government, and the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. Seemingly narrow definitions, and yet if we read into them, we find the depth of what we're discussing to be psychological freedom. The freedoms we hold dear include the right to physical, religious expression, movement, due process of law, privacy, bodily autonomy, and the list goes on. The heart of all of them is the absence of subjection to foreign domination and despotic governing of our mind, or the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved with mind control or coercion. To be truly free is to be aware of having choices and the possibility of being free to act on those choices in a way that would serve ourselves and our community best. For us to act on them as we see fit, not for it to be dictated to us. By working on building your self-worth, to be able to say, I am enough, will give you the new perspective you need on the road to being psychologically free. Physical freedom is literally to be free of action, to move about, to speak, to do things, to work, to act on the physical world without hindrance or physical restraint. Being physically free in life is to be free to take action or not. There's that part of it. What we'd like to say or not. What we'll put into our bodies or not. The oversight to this is that if one's actions infringe on another person's physical freedom, there's a cost to that, or even a punishment. Our history is filled with who lost their physical freedom to choose the life they wanted because of slavery, human trafficking, or oppression. To this day, it is a reminder how important being physically free is to us. Are we there? Mental freedom is the ability to choose to detach from external labels, to make choices for oneself. Even the ability to choose our thoughts and beliefs through gathering information from all sides of a discussion. We all get stuck with negative thoughts that might have occurred to us during tough situations. We could choose to hold on to those negative thoughts, which will turn them into beliefs if thought long enough. It then becomes a state of mind and eventually part of our personality over time. We're now a slave to rigid thinking and not mentally free. Also, if our choices are made for us and we blindly follow along, only giving our attention to those that say they're taking care of us, without gaining the knowledge of all sides for ourselves, we've given up our freedom. Now, of course, we normally like to think and believe that those in leadership positions with various institutions have our best interests at heart, right? However, there have been many instances in history where our beliefs have been proven wrong as it relates to this. Giving up our intellectual capacity to research, ask questions, and share our knowledge in order to gauge what choices to make for ourselves can be catastrophic. Just following along with government or medical mandates that tell us they have all the knowledge and what they're saying is the right thing to do led to suffering, slavery, and holocausts in the not-so-distant past.
Dr. Martin Luther King said, sometimes you have to free a people from the prison of their own minds in order to save their lives. Where are we now? Are we in that free space? In a study by Stefan Lau and Annette Heimisch on functional freedom, published in NCBI, their concept described functional freedom as a capacity people have that varies depending on certain conditions of a decision episode. It denotes an inner capability to consciously shape complex decisions according to one's own values and needs. With high functional freedom, the person is extensively rational. The person has high cognitive skills, good introspection of self-awareness, high self-control, and self-regulatory skills. The process is extensively reflective, with mental stimulation, considering the pros and contrasts, with inner dialogue, reconstructing dispositions and rules. The structure is undetermined, with many valuable options, unknown situations, conflicts between motives. With low functional freedom, the person is marginally rational. With psychiatric disorders, low cognitive and self-regulatory skills, the process is unconscious. The person acts by matching the problem, acts through habit, and has automated processing. The structure is determined, with a dominant option, a low choice, a known situation. High functional freedom is when the decision procedure is highly reflective. Thus, when the decision structure is highly undetermined and the decider is highly rational and skilled. On the contrary, decisions functionally unfree are characterized by automated, fast, and easy decision making that demands no further skills, rational requirements, or conscious values. Sheep. This doesn't mean the latter decisions are inferior to the freer decisions or are to be refrained from. At times, many everyday decisions are likely automated and subconscious for good reasons, like things like breathing, for example. Yeah. If that was left up to our conscious, then some of us would die. However, the fact that decisions with a potential for high functional freedom would perhaps be scarce in daily routine does not mean they're trivial decisions. Deliberate decision making is a key component of functional freedom, and typically associated with problematic decisions that bear highly important consequences for our lives. The word wanting or want communicates a sense of lack. If there's something you want intrinsically, it means you don't have it. Generally, being free from wanting is to be in a situation where you don't worry about things like where your next meal is coming from, or how you can clothe yourself and your children, or get a roof over your heads. If we put our attention on our lack of having something by saying and feeling we want, much of what we want must always stay just beyond our reach. The famous American artist Norman Rockwell depicted the four freedoms through art. To be free from want is shown in the Thanksgiving picture, or I'll Be Home for Christmas painting. It shows a family celebrating at a dinner table filled with abundance of food to share, well-clothed and happy faces. Poverty is a defining issue in the quest to build a better world. Most political systems claim the idea that their system alone can create a better world, although if that were true, surely poverty wouldn't be in such abundance in our society today. So, what have we achieved? In an otherwise wealthy, prosperous, democratic society, it is not enough to just shrug and say our system is better than any others. A piece of this puzzle could be our individual and collective psychological freedom. Wanting more is a social phenomenon of our time, or a reflection of the way we live. There's a difference between a want and a need, yet we find it's something that is seldom a recognized phenomenon. In our unconscious behavior, we do not notice that wanting more often precedes our emotions or actions. When we start wanting more as a way to measure our self-worth and determine our values, we fall prey to what is known as, in Buddhism, as the wanting mind. This wanting is driven by desire, aversion, and anxiety. It creates an illusion of control. Someone who is not keeping score, or not looking to be richer, and who is not afraid of losing, who has not let wanting more unduly influence them, that person is free. How far are we from being free? And so that takes us to psychological freedom and humanism. And humanistic psychology is based on an approach that embraces freedom of choice, creativity, and self-awareness. It was primarily a recent influence by the work of psychologists Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow. And you may recognize Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, which, really ties into this information. So they believed there was a need for a positive, uplifting view that focused on human potential rather than human dysfunction. So the new humanistic psychological view is based on the power you have over your own fate, rather than the ways in which your unconscious memories or conditioning influence your behavior. Even if your brain is conditioned and your unconscious memories have affected your behavior, humanistic psychology says you are free to choose something different now. Once you realize this, your brain creates new neural pathways, which would open up to seeing new possibilities in their life. With a natural drive to achieve personal growth and self-development, one is free to develop a more complex and evolved version of themselves and their life. Each need on Maslow's pyramid must be fulfilled before someone can progress to the next level of self-actualization. Self-actualization is the highest aspiration on the pyramid and ultimate goal of the individual, according to Maslow. Similarly, humanistic psychology is designed to help the client achieve self-actualization. Now, to be truly free, then, can be defined as the exertion of the power each individual has to consciously and independently choose from a pertinent bundle of possibilities at his or her disposal. You might not be free from financial constraints or illness, but you are free to see that it's possible to do something by gaining knowledge and information we can share to change the situation. Let me say that again. You might not be free from financial constraint or illness, but you are free to see that it is possible to do something by gaining knowledge and information we can share to change the situation. Let's change the narrative, because from knowledge sprouts power, and we can have acceptance through enlightenment. The ability to be free lies not in the capacity to say yes to everything, but to say yes only to that which really matters to you and that you decided is beneficial for you and everyone else. So, pay attention to your thoughts and beliefs. When they come up, ask yourself if they are really true. Let go of attachment to your thoughts and convictions. Find instances where they are not true. Look for both. Ask yourself, what is another perspective to see this situation from? Ask yourself, what are your choices? And find several of them. Educate yourself where necessary and feel in your body what is more true for you. An attribute to work on is building your self-worth. To be able to say, I am enough, in order to feel and revel in being psychologically free. All people have had a past and that conditioned them in some way. And all people have had memories that remain unconscious to them that are still affecting them in some way also. And even so, all people are also free to choose from various possibilities, a more beneficial perspective or path that could improve their lives and other people's lives as well. What do you choose? Where do you decide, or where do you choose to influence a difference, influence a change? Where are you going to start? Because ultimately, you can decide if you are free. This is the sound of Little Kirk, Mr. Kirk Davis. As we kick off musical therapy, this track is called Can't Hold I Down.
Keep I down. We keep burning them windows for us and sound. Yeah, hold I down. But this a serious thing. This a no maybe down. Yeah, hold I down. No. I will like him clear right path right and now some men not just a shot like a Salvador. Yeah, him give me that clean hands and I'm pure in heart. Me up it from the start again. Me got it clean like a whistle devil. Back away no will no shine and will me listen there. None of these man are the most like children but on the ball. And the whole I don't know me so listen. Yeah, hold I down. You say the most like alone I give my way the triple crown, yeah. Then just keep I down. We keep burning them wheels, powers and sound, yeah. Yeah, hold I down. Well, this a serious business and now me go down, yeah. Yeah, hold I down. Storm, through the rain. Thank you for blessing me again. We tried it on the street, we run it through the lane. I went up here gunshot and it's a market on the main, yeah. Now that you carry me through, well, many I call about the chosen of you. Me don't know who are you. What if you want no place and what you can't go through with that tell them? Then can't hold I down. You sit down, most like alone, I give my way the chicken from, yeah. Then can't keep I down. We keep burning them with words, powers and sound. Yeah, hold I down. But this a serious business and I'm gonna down.
of Hezron, his rendition of The Air That I Breathe.
Oh, cigarettes, no sleep, no lights, no sound, nothing to eat, no books to.
What do you need? Or is it what you want?
Love with you has left me peaceful, warm and tired. What more could I ask? There's nothing left to be desired. Peace came upon me and it leaves me so sweet, silent angel, go to sleep. Sometimes all I need is the air that I breathe to love you. All I need is the air that I breathe to love you. All I need is the air that I breathe. Peace came upon me and it leaves me so sweet, silent angel, go to sleep. Yeah. Sometimes all I need is the air that I breathe to love you. All I need is the air that I breathe just to love you. All I need is the air that I breathe. All I need. When you need me, I'll be there for you. Even if you don't talk all the while, I'll still care for you.
This is Paul Anthony working out with Maurice Gregory. Track called When You Need Me.
Even when I don't pick up the phone.
Yeah man, when you need me, 773-789-STEW. 773-789-7839.
When you have to make a living, I know I got some family and friends out there. Women I link with our chat to in months and years, yeah. It no fear, it I swear. But if I say I love you, that means I still care. Trust me, sometimes I gotta walk alone, but I'll be back home real soon. When you need me, I'll be there for you. Even if you don't talk all the while, I'll still care for you. When you need me, I'll be always here. Even when I don't pick up the phone, it don't mean I don't care. Well, I'm not the best at reaching out and keeping in touch, but I promise to try to do better. Cause if I lose you tomorrow, my friend, I would wish we could spend more time together. Yeah, my only regret, make more time for the people I can't forget. Before they're just a memory, I forgive thanks for the love that you're giving me, and push right through the anxiety. When you need me, I'll be there for you. Even if you don't talk all the while, I'll still care for you. When you need me, I'll be always here. Even when I don't pick up the phone, it don't mean I don't care. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Yeah, but still you're on my mind. Oh,
miss you know.
Such a long time since we lost out, but the love doesn't decline. I'm here for you when all is lost. Just say the word when you need me. I'll be there for you. Even if we don't talk all the while, I'll still care for you. When you need me, I'll be always here. Even when I don't pick up the phone, it don't mean I don't care. When you need me, I'll be there for you. Even if we don't talk all the while, I'll still care for you. When you need me, I'll be always here. Even when I don't pick up the phone, it don't mean I don't care. When you need me. What are we fighting for? Could you tell me, please?
This is new music from Lee Kelly.
Oh yeah.
Asking the question, what's in this world?
Days are far and few between. What's left in this world that to us still have a meaning? 400 years and more, my people, we see ourselves locked behind closed doors. It's time for us to come together as one. God gives us grace and blessings to have so much fun. Yeah. Not knowing the story, no, it's not your fault. His everlasting glory is what we've been taught. What's in this world? Yeah. How we living now? What's in this world? Tell me, could you tell me? What's in this world? Yeah. Oh, wait. What's in this world? For me and you. Hey, God gives us grace and honor to live for each other more and more. But knowing there's some selfishness inside, we all should see there is no place left for us to hide. How about today we all just sit down, erase our past and live for love? That's the only way out. For the future, time is at hand. It's time for us to live as one and help this loving land. What's in this world? Tell me how we're living now. What's in this world? What's in this world? People, could you tell me how we're living now? Somebody tell me, please. Oh, it hurts my heart to see.
Such a great question. What's in this world? What do you have going on in your world?
Days are far and few between. What's left in this world?
What is left indeed?
Will still have a meaning. 400.
You know, we really have to
people we see
strive to
ourselves locked behind.
Free our minds, like Bob Marley said, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds.
God gives us
when we get to that place
to have
where we recognize that We are. I am.
You know it's not your fault.
Then we know that we can start making little changes first within ourselves, which then influences our little circle, and our little circle will go out and recognize and make the changes within themselves and make their changes in their little circles, and then you end up with a ripple effect because it only takes a little vibration to create a tidal wave, right? This is Marcia J. Ball. Track called Can You Feel It?
Touch in every movement as our souls intertwines in ecstasy. It ain't easy trusting love in this untrustworthy world. Broken promises just come first to the fools, but I trust you all the same. Cause I know I'm not the only one. Live love at every moment, every touch and every movement as our souls intertwines in ecstasy. Oh, come on, let me in. I'll give you peace of mind. Yo,
this is Arajanai. He says, listen, have no fear.
I see it when you hurt. I hear your every cry. I know your love is worth, and this I just can't deny. Have no fear, you're not on your own. You should know that I'm here, you're not all alone. And this is real, real life, and I really care for you. Hold on tight, and I'll be right there for you. Woman, let me and I'll take care of you, take care of you. Given time, you will be fine. Just don't decline my loving. I read your mind, I see the signs. Just hold on, wait, I'm coming. Forget the lies of those who couldn't stand the test of your love. I'll be the first, also the last, and you'll be thinking of. With every bit of myself, I'm calling out to you. Your love, no one else, 'cause nothing else would do. I picture me holding you close to me, wrapped in my warm embrace. This is the way you're supposed to be, with that smile upon your face. Have no fear, you're not all alone. You should know that I'm here, you're not all alone. And this is real, real life, and I really care for you. Hold on tight, and I'll be right there for you. Woman, let me in, and I'll take care of you, take care of you. Given time, you will be fine. Just don't decline my loving. I read your mind, I see the signs. Just hold on, wait, I'm coming. Forget the last of those who couldn't stand the test of your love. I'll be the first, also the last, and you'll be thinking of. With every bit of myself, I'm calling out to you.
your love no one else, 'cause nothing else will do. I picture me holding you close to me, wrapped in my warm embrace. This is the way you're supposed to be, with that smile upon your face. Have no fear, you're not on your own. You should know that I'm here, you're not on your own. And this is real, real life, and I really care for you. Hold on tight, and I'll be right there for you. Woman, let me in, and I'll take care of you. Take care of you.
I guess I'm at it again. When me turn around and look, me see family, no friend. No, I miss you, my baby.
Out to the Blender Heritage. This is Aisha Blend. It's called I Wish.
8 months and 3 days was no easy task.
Daughter of Everton Blender.
Choose the path of life and love. 7 months were like yesterday. Yesterday. I love you no less, only to hold you at death. Never really heard you cry. Our feet upon my chest. No, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, purest form of love. You took a piece of my heart. Only God can make me whole. Hey, I guess I'm at it again. When me turn around and look, me see family, no friend. No, I miss you, my baby. I miss you, my baby. My wish was to hold you in my arms, take you for a walk with, sing a lullaby. Sing a lullaby. My wish was to see you bright from day to day. I wish, I wish, I wish you could turn back the hands of time. Turn back the hands of time. Hands of time. Turn back the hands of time. Turn back the hands of time. Was to hold you in my arms, take you for a walk with, sing a lullaby. Sing a lullaby. My wish was to see you play from day to day. I wish, I wish, I wish you could turn back the hands of time. Turn back the hands of time. Hands of time. Turn back the hands of time. Turn back the hands of time. It's gonna rain. Another night like this again.
This is Deja Lewis.
Pray that you say
A track called Come On Home.
angel faces above the waves. I miss you, baby. Come on home. Can't live without you. Come on home. I miss you, baby. Come on home. I cannot live without you. Come on home. If I know you do what you have to Somebody will make you cry.
This is the sound of Lady Tia. A track called Riding for a Fall.
Tears in your eyes. Go ahead and have your fun, boy. Don't you know I'm still in love with you, boy? Go ahead and have yourself a ball. You're riding for a fall. You're riding for a fall. Someday somebody will break your heart. Then you're gonna wish we had never part. Go ahead and have your fun, boy. Don't you know I'm still in love with you, boy? Go ahead.
As we close out tonight's Real Talk on the night shift with DJ Kevin Steele, I want to thank you once again for tuning in, for locking in, for sharing. I want to say thank you to my segment sponsor, McNeil Trucking. With McNeil Trucking, you're in good hands for all your moving needs. Give them a call, 954-406-9740. Tell them you heard about them on the night shift with DJ Kevin Steele. I do want to thank you again and say thanks to my affiliates, the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com, NIE Radio, PEMGTV.com, and each and every one of you who are locked in tonight, or who is locked in tonight, Queen's English.
I'm truly in love with you.
Truly appreciate, love you.
Go ahead and have yourself
As you head into this strong end, remember there's a Saturday stew this weekend. I haven't been on for a while, you know. It's way overdue.
You're riding for a fall.
Yeah, man, I come back and hang out with you on Saturday in the Saturday Stew Music Show on ReggaeGlobalRadio.com. Do remember to look out for members of your community as you go about your day. Whether you walk, ride, or drive, remember your community is not just the development that you live in, but it spreads far and wide. So if you take the bus, the plane, the boat, or the train, the people you pass along the way, these are members of your community. Do something good for one of them today, because you never know who's going to do something good for you tomorrow. Be good. If you can't be good at it. My name is DJ Kevin Stewart. Is all I like to do it to you, for you, and with you. Every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern. Catch you on Saturday for the Saturday Stew. And if I don't or I can't, take care until we meet up again. Blessings to you. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world, from right here in South Florida. I bid you all a good night. Greetings and salutations. This is DJ Kevin Stew inviting you to bubble up and simmer down with me in the Saturday Stew right here on Reggae Global Radio. Get ready for the special segment called The Secret Ingredient, where you may hear from your favorite artist or producer. Saturday Stew happens every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time exclusively on ReggaeGlobalRadio.com, where we get high on reggae. Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot, where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The night shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.